Howdy. It is Wednesday, May 3rd, right? 2017. Correct me if I've got this wrong. Sometimes it happens. This is the weekly iAwake teleseminar, and where we discuss all things iAwake, and that can conclude, most of the universe and a lot of stuff. So I'm John Dupuy, and this is Doug Prater.
Hi, everybody.
And let me just start off with stuff that's been going on in my life. Yesterday, when I was meditating, I meditated for an hour and 45 minutes, and I started out with a 25-minute track that we haven't released yet, but it is in the pipeline, created by this young man here. No, I guess you're still a young man. Anyway, and it's a brain warm-up, and it has this kind of one. It goes back through what are all the different brainwave states that it takes you through in 25 minutes?
Yeah, it actually takes you through the whole range there. It starts you out where you meet it at a low beta, goes all the way down to delta and keeps you there for a while, and then slowly all the way up to gamma, and then drops you back off at alpha before the end. So you're getting the whole training there. And the purpose of going through all of these in 25 minutes so quickly is that you develop the cognitive flexibility to be able to access any of them more easily at any time. So.
And how freaking cool is that? So stay posted. We have this whole suite of these tracks that we're going through a whole beta testing and blah 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 and improving them and doing all this stuff. But I love this one. I've been using it for 2 or 3 weeks now, and it's how I start off my meditation. I do that, then I go on to other things. But I find out this just brain warm up with using all these tracks. It just, when I start doing the deeper, slower delta stuff that I use every day, that it just works better. So anyway, and I was doing this meditation, and I don't know how this came about, but I had 2 medicine questions. And when I say medicine, I mean them in the sense of Native American spirituality. Okay, I had a mentor and a teacher, Wallace Black Elk, for a number of years, who just was a wonderful man and supported me and helped me and was my friend at a time where I was really, really going through it. And so when they talk about medicine, they're asking about a medicine question would be a question like a koan or something, but it's more personal. It's like something that would lead you to pray in a good way, to ask, the great spirit for guidance and what the solutions to this are. So I was holding 2 of these. And the first one was, what do I have to do to get to the next best version of myself? What is, I'm doing all this stuff and I have been for a while, but what do I need to actually do to kick into this? And obviously, if I'm asking this question, I'm feeling that I have a need to ask the question and get an answer. And the other question was, how do I grow this company? All right. To be a worldwide phenomena. Where everybody, it's not just, I think we've, not just us, but in general, brain entrainment has been pretty much accepted by the early adopters, and hundreds of thousands, not million people maybe or so, or maybe a couple of million have used this technology and know, how significant it is. But how many people are on the planet right now, Doug?
What is it, 7 billion?
What's that?
7 billion?
7. I thought 4. That's because I live in Wayne County. There's not many people here. 7 billion, and maybe we've had a few million that have used this technology. That's not enough, right? And so I'm really frustrated by that, because I have this burning, vision and passion to get this out for everybody. I had this vision of that was the World Cup soccer thing, and iAwake. You guys, if you see that logo there was on like the wall, when they're playing the soccer, like you see Sony and this and that and Mercedes, or what's the real fancy watches? Rolex is always there. They have iAwake, so it gets to the point, it was, what do you mean you don't entrain your brain? You don't do that? That's weird. It's like, you don't have a smartphone? Oh, well, that's kind of archaic, and maybe it's no, but what? How do you live? So that kind of thing. And so that was the question. And it just was really painful. I had a one of those meditation sessions where I felt a lot of pain, and I know, because I've taught this and blogged about it, written books about it, that, and Robert Augustus Masters said you need to lean into the pain, accept it, lean into the darkness, because that's where we find God. Okay, that's where we have the breakthrough. And it would really be nice if every time you meditated, you could experience a little pain, then find God. Well, sometimes you're just kind of left with the pain. And I've learned, that when this stuff comes on, I just go, welcome, teacher. Thank you very much. And particularly, I really like blissful, non-dual states of, enlightened joy and all that stuff. It's really great. I would, if I had my druthers, my ego would rather experience that. However, a practice is what it is, and you're given what you need. And so I said, and I hadn't worked through it. And I just said, please, God, help me out here. And I'm not maybe not the most heroic person in life. So just encourage me. I don't know what I said. It was just that I just left it with that. And then we went throughout the day, and then some things happened during the day, and just started getting feedback from from people that were using iAwake and people that were listening to the iAwake podcast, where we talk about practice and using all the stuff, things we talk about here, but in the service of recovery from addictions, right? And how there was, it's really changing. A lot of people significantly had their lives blown away and changed in really positive ways by the work that we're doing, and it was like, it's not quite having your logo on the World Cup, wall or something like that, but it is amazing, and it really encouraged me and made me really grateful, and just said, okay. I'm just going to keep, this work is important. We're going to keep doing it and do the best we can and trust God for the rest, right? Cover all the bases, make sure I'm doing my own personal practice. And I just figured a few things out, how I can ratchet that up. And, just show up more. Because sometimes, even in your practice, you can kind of just get, ho-hum, this is just what I do. And then something clicks and you're just there with a little more focus, a little more intensity. I've been talking to my friend Sean Phillips, Strength for Life, before that, Body for Life, with his brother Bill Phillips, anyway, who's been talking about mindful exercise and, strength training and other physical training as not just a merely physical thing, but also having a spiritual dimension, an essential spiritual dimension. And he was just talking about how he's been working out for years. And if you see the pictures of him, he's just like, he's got these Adonis Greek god pictures. And he's just talking about, now that he's in his 50s, how it's starting to wake up, and just coming to him. And I just love that. And I've been sending, my colleagues some articles that I've been reading lately, and about practice, and there was an article about super agers, people that age like amazingly, and I just hit 60, by the way. In July I'll be 61. So and they said in this article, and this is, they said that if you work out like a maniac, if you work out and just do really intense workouts, like 6 days a week, 7 days a week, however, just work out, your body will just stay vital, and the aging thing will be transformed into something different, and the other thing was to learn a new skill, learn a new language, learn to play an instrument, blah, 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 blah. And I was thinking about, in my own life, if that's what I do, I work out all the time. I probably at this point, at this time of year, I normally do strength training every other day. Then I try to play tennis every day that I'm not playing, that I'm not working out. And to me, that's been a really nice balance, because strength training is strength training, And by the way, in my world, my little thing here is when there's heavy shit to be, when there's heavy stuff to be moved, call John, because he's big and strong. The 60-year-old man, I'm the guy that's supposed to lift the heavy stuff. Because I've been a gym rat for 35 years and I'm really strong, I'm just strong, it's like, no big credit for me, but if you do this long enough, you just get strong. And somebody, very prominent, I think he won Mr. America way back in the 70s or something. He told me one time, your muscles don't know how old you are, And this guy's a specimen. He's probably 79 or 80 or something like that. So anyway, yeah. And I, of course I do this brain entrainment stuff every day. And then about 6 years ago, I picked up the blues guitar thing, electric guitar. And I started, well, God, I'm like, 50 and change. Is it, this is something you should start studying when you're a little kid, everybody says. And I'd already played, I knew basic chords and I played acoustic guitar, but, minor pentatonic scale, major pentatonic scales, Mixolydian scales, all this stuff, this infinite complexity of a guitar. With electric, it's the vibrato, it's playing two strings at the same time, it's the bends. I mean, there's all kinds of complexity built in there, and picking is another big deal. So I put all that together, and it just had a wonderful journey of falling in love with music all over again. And I've been a musician most of my life, and I think I'm really good now. I'm in the zone when I'm playing. Lord have mercy. It's really something. It just feels like one of those channel experiences. So, those are some good things that are going on and positive things. And, I was talking with Doug, and I'll shut up and let you talk at some point, that I've been really feeling this call, this vocational call to write the next book. All right. And the first book was Integral Recovery, which is really a great book. If you haven't read it, you should. It feels like one of those channeled flow state things. I look at it and go, I wrote that? My God, it humbles me. And that's the way it is, when we're in those zones, when we're performing at our peak levels in those flow states, we do amazing things that it's just, instead of inflating our egos, actually do the exact opposite. It kind of just like, wow, makes us really grateful and just humbled that we can be used in that way. So anyway, so we're getting ready to, I was talking to him earlier. We're having our one of our business meetings, and I said, and he said, well, can I write this book with you? And Doug hasn't been with us long, but he's a really good writer. I mean, super good writer. And I went, yeah. So, yeah, I did the outline, by the way, which is probably already in your emails. And we're rolling on this on Monday morning, start writing this darn thing. And, I haven't written a book with another person before, but I just feel really good about, it's like, they're like doggy months that we've been working together. Each month is like 7 months or something. So there's been a lot of trust and collaboration in a very short time. So yeah. And let me tell you what I did today, just so you know. I did Doug's warm-up program, which is not released yet. And then I did PMP 3.3. It's just heavy and powerful entrainment, heavy lifting. And then I did the deep recovery without the guided, just the music. And I think that it equaled out like an hour and 15 minutes. And this time unlike yesterday where I was called just to be present with the pain and the hurt and the suffering, if you will, the darkness, man, in the last 20 minutes, I just went into that kind of gathered samadhi place where thought is optional. You don't have to think, you can just be there. And it was really beautiful. So, that I'm just letting you know that we are practitioners, right? And everything that we're preaching and we're writing and we're creating, we're using this stuff on a daily basis. And we just want to, know that you're not alone, and maybe you can, be part of the community, or if you're contemplating using this stuff, just having people talk about how it affects them and what's going on might inspire you to practice more, and the other thing was, what was this? Well, I don't have to talk about that now. Well, I'll leave that for later. So Doug, you want to comment or chime in on that?
Yeah, this is just, we were talking about this on the Integral Recovery podcast too. What you were discussing there with your meditation practice is just showing up. I mean, it's not always going to be a brilliant, blissful session, but you show up anyway, and you attend to what's there, whatever that may be. some days, and this is true for physical practice as well. Some days you're just not going to have it in the gym the way you would want to. Some days your meditation's going to be more difficult. Mind is all over the place and you have a harder time getting there. Of course, the technology helps, but you just show up to whatever the experience is and
That's right.
do the best you can do in that moment, or pay attention and just allow it to be what it is, because there's no reason to judge that. If you're showing up the best you can for the universe, for the present, then you're doing your part, and that's all you can do. And that means being available to learn what you can learn from that as well, instead of, I don't know, I still have a tendency to be really hard on myself sometimes, and when I have a meditation that's not going the way I want it to, the tendency for me is to slip into this, get it together. Why aren't you feeling a certain way? Why aren't you doing a certain thing? And I'm much better these days about just allowing it to be, noticing my tendency to want to push myself out into that place. And that's something that I, again, developed over time by continuing to show up and be here.
Yeah, and as you mature as a practitioner, you can do that, and one of the biggest hangups, especially when you first get started, is I call it the meditation or the practice superego. It's like, this is what a practice is supposed to be. I read all these books, and you're like, your mind is supposed to stop and be completely still, and you're supposed to experience all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And that doesn't happen. There's something wrong. This doesn't work. I suck, whatever, and it's just not like that. And so it is what it is. But if you just keep it up, it'll teach you how to meditate better. It'll teach you how to turn off your negative messages about yourself or all this stuff. It's just, it's all grist for the mill, and it's just how you learn. And so you just have to, when you're a beginner, just be willing to suck, And most people, when they start using this stuff, actually the iAwake, they really have great experiences, most of the time. And it's really encouraging, because, oh my gosh, I'm feeling the difference right away. And I had a wonderful meditation, and I've never experienced that kind of depth before, but it is what it is. And once you're a master practitioner, you just keep it up, and allow it to be whatever it is, and just keep doing it. And I've often said about the gym, a sucky workout is like 100% better than no workout. Even if you didn't feel very focused and it's like you were there, you did some stuff. It's cumulative, it all comes.
The only bad meditation is the one you didn't do.
Yeah. And like my friend said, Gregory, anyway, my friend Gregory he said, meditation, it's not what you think. So
you get better too at noticing those tendencies of mind too, when it's not going a certain, or the way you think. You get better at noticing that, I had all these expectations, for example, and that carries on to other practices in your life too. When I first started working with Ken Wilber's stuff and doing the shadow work, I had a really hard time recognizing the moments when that practice would be applicable, until I discovered in my meditation the way to become more observant of that. And I could pick up on those shadow tendencies as they arose in my daily life off the cushion, which is really what this is all about in the first place. And beyond just sitting there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the proof of the pudding. Is not, the experiences you go through or the state changes and whatnot in your practice, but that opens up the rest of your life in different ways. I mean, even your sleep and your dream life and all that will be profoundly affected by doing this practice. I don't know. Do you experience pretty vivid dreams now, Doug?
I do much more so now.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. I actually have started to focus on lucid dreaming in the past couple of years, and dream yoga in particular. Lucid dreaming is kind of a doorway into the dream yoga practices, and it just goes hand in hand with mindfulness, because they're continuations of the same spectrum. Being aware in your daily life as you're going about your business, practicing mindfulness as you wash the dishes and eat your food and talk to people, translates to awareness within your dreams and the ability to do some of these practices, which then enhances your ability to be mindful during the day. So it's a beautiful, beautiful complement, and plus a wonderful way to experience some of these subtle states and see the depths of consciousness.
Right. And your subtle body probably doesn't have, sore joints or, a pulled calf muscle or whatever, your subtle body, you can just rock and roll, doing, you can fly about like Bruce Lee or, an angel through heaven or whatever. It's really pretty unlimited.
But if that does happen in your dream, it is what it is.
It is what
and
it
you
is,
go with
yeah.
it and you roll with the pain.
I know. I really look forward to going to sleep at night because my dreams are so powerful now. I actually go into another dimension of reality, dimension of reality. And it's a trip, man. It's just like, wow, so.
And that's a really good place to ask the same kind of medicine questions that you were bringing to your practice too, because the answers that you get are very different when you're able to perceive them in that way. Conversations with dream characters can just be fascinating. And I don't particularly want to go into the metaphysics of whether or not those exist within your own mind or are a combination or from another plane of existence entirely. But either way, there's some fascinating conversations and a lot of insight to be had there.
Yeah. And if you have a powerful dream that you necessarily weren't being lucid in, but you remember it, and then you can go back and really good when you're meditating and say, hey, Mr. Badger, let's look at it this perspective that everything in this dream is a product of my own consciousness. And so every character is a part of me. So Mr. Badger, what part of me are you? And what do you want to tell me? And then you can start dialoguing, and these different parts can tell you all kinds of really interesting things. And when you work with dreams, in my experience in working with clients, is that when you do the dream work, you work with this unconscious material. It's not just intellectual breakthroughs that happen. There are actual, some kind of energetic, profound thing shifts or adds. Is that your experience, Doug? There's something more than just ideational, playing around.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, it's very much a experienced, felt sense of something being different. There's a profound reorganization that happens there. And man, I've had some dreams that were just intensely healing too. I come from a background of addiction here, and there are things that just weighed on me and were really hard to release. And dreams have been a powerful tool for letting go of some of that stuff as I have progressed with my recovery and leaned into practice.
Can you give a specific example, maybe?
Well,
how you did that?
I really would rather not, with respect to other parties involved in this, but but I assure you, I've been able to, get over some of the things that really had been weighing on me, and have brought the healing and joy with it to other areas of my life, the relationships I have with people now, and repairing some things with my family. Yeah.
Amen. Your family, the family. Boy, there's a karmic furball, that a lot of stuff that we work through. Most of us have families that maybe a little less than perfect. And so they are, the really great way to work. Like Ken Wilber always says, if you think you're enlightened, go home for the holidays. See how that holds up, and I love that. And for years, I took that to account. And so when I would go home for the holidays, I would meditate more. I'd do like an hour and a half instead of an hour, and make sure I'd exercise and do my practices. And like, I'm home for Christmas, so I'm just going to fall back into my old, patterns as the youngest son in this family and eat too much and, flop around. It was like really important for me to, and I wasn't extremely, always cool about it. But when I did blow it, I was able to go back and apologize to everybody and clean up my message, which was really good. So,
yeah. And that's a strength that you develop too, through continuing to show up and do the stuff you're talking about doing your strength training, John. And it's meditation practice too. You build strength in your heart, in your character.
That's for sure.
To show up and apologize or recognize, when you've made a mistake, which is.
Yeah. And it's easier to apologize when you're not so attached to your ego. There's just a little shift. There's a little space between you and this is me, and I am the victim, and I'm living in this, and my family never met all my needs, and nor did the world, and I'm going to die soon, and it's all be over, and the lights will go out. Rah! What a story, right? So when you start shifting from that a little bit, it makes it easier. You can, oh, I made a mistake. Well, duh, I'm really imperfect and I'm doing the best I can. So you're able to evaluate yourself perhaps more honestly, more compassionately, and say, besides all the stupid stuff I do, I really do try hard, and probably, at this point in my life, the work I'm doing, there's more positive than negative that's coming out of it. So if you get that, not 50-50, but you get it 51-49, hey, man, that's progress. And everybody else, is struggling. And, some people haven't made the shift yet where they realize that they got to work on themselves. And it's not just about they used to, in one school, they said it's a young soul. You're just learning, wow, you're partying, having fun, trying to figure, it's all about you at this point. When you start making that shift, that maybe it's not all about me. And oh my God, I really done some dumb things. And, maybe I need to find out who the hell I am and what I'm supposed to be doing and what's the meaning of all this. There's just a shift in depth that comes on, and often a crisis of just the old stuff that used to make you happy, not longer satisfying you. And you have to dig deep and you have to find some way through that. And that's kind of just part of the archetypal journey of the soul, so.
Yeah, that 1% difference can be enough too. It can be all the difference in the world. I am envisioning right now an old balance scale with things on each side, and 1% heavier over here. Maybe it's not going to slam down immediately, but it'll go all the way with a 1% difference in what's over there. So,
and I was thinking earlier that as far as I can see, if you use iAwake technologies as we are recommending as a daily practice, et cetera, that, and I'm just postulating this, but you could see a 30% improvement across the board. A 30% improvement in your mental, in your intelligence, perhaps 30% improvement in your spirituality. You're 30% more spiritual, whatever that means, and in your health and stuff like that. And it's like, and I think in many of our cases, it's a lot more than that. But what if it was just 30%? Man, that is like, what if I'm watching kind of the NBA playoffs now. It's when I kick into the NBA is when the playoffs start. I don't pay attention during the season. I'm actually following the Warriors and the Cavaliers. I'm kind of interested in those two teams. But, what if you were, shooting 30% more than your average buckets, You're going to be the champion. You're going to win. You're going to plow through, the East-West Conference and get the champion. 30% is huge. What if and that's why athletes that use, steroids, for example, they have like a 30, somebody said that to me one time, and it may be more, but they have like a 30% advantage, strength, speed, recovery time over their peers. And if everybody doesn't get to use the stuff or not using it, it's just not fair. You gotta, you got this guy all steroided out and he, you're running across the field and he slams into you. That's gonna really hurt. And you don't have the advantage of using that stuff. So, 30% is a whole heap, it's a difference between being mediocre and being amazing, being a master, being really at the top of whatever field that you're working at. And that's not going to happen automatically, but over time with effort and grittiness, which is like heroic stick-to-itiveness. And as we continue to practice, I think that our discipline, our grittiness increases, our motivation increases, it gets deeper. It's just like, well, I'm not very self-motivated. Well, get some, for crying out loud. Get a coach to get you started, and be the auxiliary ego for a while until you can get to the zone where you don't need that anymore and your training wheels are off. And you can just, become who you need to be and what you need to be. And working on all the things we say, you got on your body, you got to work on your mind, you got to do the shadow, the emotional work, and the spiritual work. Then you take that foundation, then you learn about discipline, you learn about practice, you learn how you're so much more than you thought you were. Then you can get into the zone and just, God knows what you can accomplish, but it's way beyond what you ever figured out you could probably do. So,
and sometimes you have to get your ego out of the way. This is a brilliant case of that. You were talking about the basketball players where you have to get your ego out of the way to do that, because the best players out there on the court, they make, 50% or something like that of their shots when they're actually out there in the middle of the game. If I had an ego that said, I'm never going to shoot the ball because what if I miss and I'm supposed to be this great player, but then you never shoot, then you're going to make zero. So yeah, learning to let that go and get out of the way allows you to get out there and do the work you're supposed to do. And yeah, you're going to fail sometimes. Maybe you're going to fail a lot, which is of course where the grittiness comes in, but you do the spiritual work to get out of the way, to try to show up and do what you're supposed to do.
Right. And if you won every time, winning wouldn't mean anything. You know, if I went and played, tennis against a 2-year-old and I beat him every time, it's like, oh, well, this is really, congratulations, John. Like, a guy can't pick up a racket yet. And, you think you're doing this great job. But, you look at LeBron James, who has won 3 championships, but has been to the finals the last 7 times or something like that. So he's actually lost championships more than he's won, but it's amazing, and when he loses, it hurts, because we want to win, but hey, Pam beat me in tennis yesterday. It was a real bummer, but I did get a great workout, and, and I was playing pretty good, making pretty good shots. My serve was in, and then, a couple of these unforced errors, double faults here and there, and, this in shot that I had and bink into the net instead of going, and it's so fun when I'm engaging in sports. I don't try to be the guru. We're so competitive, and we go out there and we just, and we push each other to levels of playing that otherwise we certainly couldn't have done. And it's great fun, and you can hold it in humor and just laugh at yourself and enjoy that competitive little kid that comes out when you're playing sports. It's not hurting anybody, and it's a lot of fun. And because of that, I just go for every ball. I'm running all around like I'm a 18-year-old, playing singles tennis. It's not just staying in your little quadrant or something. You're out there pushing it. So it's great fun. And
you're right there in the zone of proximal growth too. That's if you go back to McKay Csikszentmihalyi's original work on flow, whenever that was published, he talks about exactly that right balance of challenge. If something's way, way, way too hard and you don't have any possible way of doing it, it's just going to crush you and you're not going to get it back up again. But like you were talking about, if you're playing against a little kid, it's no fun either. But somebody who is right there with you, something that's just hard enough. This is why, getting out there with an equal partner in tennis, or playing a hard championship match in basketball, or playing exactly the right tempo, or a musical piece that's going to push you just that right amount and get you to that next skill level, is such a magical experience. For that reason, you're right where you need to be with it, and the experience becomes our teacher. When you're into that place, you learn to recognize that feeling and grow through it, which is a wonderful thing. Certainly has been for me in my practice.
Yeah. There's and thank God, it's been really great for me and Pam, because we found an exercise that we really love to do together. And around here, there's nobody else to play with. It's it. There's a few pickleball players, but that ain't what I'm doing. So we just compete against one another. And right now, it's the tables have turned a bit, and Pam has been winning more in the last 2 or 3 games. And before that, I was on I think I won 6 games in a row. I'm like, yeah, and then boom, So it's just like, it's this cycle. It just keeps going up and down, which is like really fun. And I do like to win more than lose, but hey, I had a great workout, and my gain's improving. And like I said, I'm 60, and I'm just really starting to roll on this thing. I don't think I've reached my maximum. I'm going downhill at all. I think I'm that I don't know what the top limits are, but it does get me. Yeah, it's a spiritual thing for me, and great fun and great exercise, and just beautiful.
Yeah, showing up and learning a new skill, no matter what your age, learning a new language. I mean, sure, some things may be more difficult, but that doesn't make it impossible. That doesn't mean that you won't get any benefits from it, because it's the stretching, it's the novelty of it. It's forcing yourself to do that new thing that gives you the most benefit from it. I regret not mastering the piano at an earlier age, but I continue to get in there and work on my piano in addition to some of these other things, because of the stretch, the new coordination, the new connections that are developing that just translate that capacity to learn other new things to all areas, it seems, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just an amazing new story. You know what, we're learning about practice and integral practice, the parts of yourself that you need to work on for a lifetime. And you know, because it's a new idea, it takes a little bit of time to get it together, and you probably need some coaching or support or read the books or whatever. But once you get into that zone, it just changes the whole story. So are there any questions or anything, comments anybody might have?
Doesn't look like anything.
Okay. Well, if anything, just let us know. And we're talking about making this kind of a live podcast at some point. And I don't know if this will continue to be what it is, where people, iAwake practitioners, just come in and do this, or we'll do another podcast. Anyway, we're kind of figuring out, but we're having a great flipping time doing the Journey of Integral Recovery podcast. We've got Dr. Bob Weathers and Doug and myself, and we started doing guests for the first time. And that's been wonderful. But we've just been having this really amazing time. It's just, like I said, this flow creative states. Like you get, you know, I don't know, a great bass player, a great guitar player, and a drummer together, and then you start doing stuff, and it just starts getting in the zone. And it's really, really been fun. And we've been getting really feedback that's really changing people's lives. This whole idea of integral recovery and all that means is an idea whose time has come. And it's one of our biggest problems in the world right now, these compulsive disorders and addiction. And our friends and loved ones, if not ourselves, are dying from this stuff. So we got to have a better model that includes more, the best of everything that we've come up with. And then you put it together. And of course, in putting it together, the sum is greater than the number of parts. I mean, everything, it just multiplies itself and it gets better. And of course, it's totally evolutionary. We keep finding new, we keep developing the technology, learning about practice, doing different things, and learning more about the brain, learning more about spirituality, learning more about all the different component parts, exercise, etc., morality, ethics, how that evolves over time and why that is desirable and what the goal of all this stuff is. It's so profound and so beautiful.
And that's, one of the things we really want to keep alive on this too, in addition to all those explorations we're doing, is this coaching element of it and the ability for you guys to come and ask questions and be here going through the thing with us. Because we all learn together. I learned so much from the questions that everybody asks and having to think about them and discuss them with John. I mean, it's all wonderful. And that's why we're here and why we're doing this. I'm just fascinated by all of this growth and the interplay between these topics. John, you were talking about starting your new book earlier and kind of giving some segue into that. And one of the things before John and I started working together on any of this is that interest that I had of unified, connecting, integral practice too, and really bringing that to the table. So I'm just delighted to be able to not only put that into a book, which I think you're all really going to enjoy, but to continue to explore it in this way too, because there's so much that can be gained from conversations like this that you learn differently when you hear them as opposed to just say reading them, or you experience it differently. And it's a wonderful tool and great way to grow. So I'm excited to see us moving in this direction.
Yeah. And of course, a lot of it just came from all the stuff we learned as practitioners in integral recovery. And it became very clear to me early in my work with addicts and their families is like everybody was hurting, not just the addict, and everybody needed the same, this practice is just for you messed up addicts. Well, we all suffer. We all are hurting. We all have our own wounds and our own pathologies and stuff. And whether it's just not, becoming the persons that we could become, which is the personal tragedy. And it's also a universal tragedy, because we all need to be there for each other if we're going to get through these very challenging times. It's, be part of the solution by becoming who you need to be and giving out compassionately and wisely and skillfully to the world. That's the name of the individual human soul game, if you will. And so anyway, so it's good times. And I think we've gone pretty good here. We can begin to wrap this up.
Yeah. Looks like still no questions. Nothing in here today, but if you guys are watching this later on YouTube and you have any questions, go ahead and send them to us at iAwake, and we're happy to answer you there. Tune in live next week, ask your questions, and we'd love to go off the dialogue then as well.
Yeah, and we have the next thing we're going to be releasing is Workout Ecstasy 2, which is amazing. And Nadja Lind, my dear friend and colleague from Berlin, she's a wonderful electronic music producer, travels all over the world doing these concerts or big parties or whatever it is they do. And she produces other people's stuff and records. And then she's just brilliant. She's in recovery. She's a longtime meditator, longtime integral practitioner, loves the gyms, in great shape. And so everything that she's put into there, besides her expertise with entrainment and the music, is based on her own personal journey of understanding what works. And so it's a really great, product. And after that, Doug's suite will be coming out, and we're calling it at this point Stealing Flow, which is kind of a riff off the really popular book Stealing Fire, which I recommend, by Wheel and Kohut, I think. But anyway, if you look, Cutler.
Yeah.
Kohut was a comment. Well, it just shows you, no, I'm not going to start playing with that. Stealing Comet Fire. So anyway, it's a really interesting book, and some of the conversations, especially by both of them actually, but by Jamie Wheel, I think, really profound stuff you can look at on YouTube and get an idea. And of course, I've been saying and experiencing that using iAwake and doing this practice will promote and induce you to go into flow states when you need to be there, and without microdosing on LSD, and without jumping off of 80-story buildings or climbing, big rock fires without any ropes and stuff. I mean, all that stuff, you can do that too if you want, but this doesn't have any of the dangers for, using illegal substances. It's illegal. And the other things, a lot of people who start chasing these flow states by doing these extreme things end up getting killed or, hurt. I mean, the casualty rate is much greater percentage-wise in combat soldiers in the United States right now. So it's dangerous stuff. So anyway, if you do the practice, if you entrain your brain, if you get yourself in alignment, you will find yourself performing at levels that you couldn't believe were possible before, and you begin to expect it. This is what I do, and this is how I show up. And this is why I have to keep practicing and tuning the instrument, right? So I can be the channel of this wisdom, this beauty, this skillfulness, whatever it is. So I think it's a good place to wrap it up. So thank you, Doug, very much. God bless everybody. Thank you.